So if you're anything like me, you spend a lot of time and energy trying to learn directional air roll in Rocket League. From watching hours of different YouTube videos on the subject to spending literally hundreds of hours actually practicing the skill, it's taken a lot to get to where I'm at with it today. But if you're new to using directional air roll or just getting into it, it can be hard to know where to start. And the videos out there are honestly, really are a mixed bag in terms of what you'll get out of it. So given my current skill level with it, I thought it'd be helpful to talk about everything I've learned about directional air roll to this point and discuss the best methods for training it if I had to start over today. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll start to build a good foundation of how directional air roll works and learn how you can incorporate it into your gameplay. Now, if you want to skip right to the training methods, I'll include breakpoints for the different subjects and chapters of this video. But first I want to talk about what it is and why you should learn directional air roll. Simply put, directional air roll is a way to control the yaw of your car without the need to input a stick direction. Compared to normal air roll, you can spin along your car's axis in either direction at a set speed. While both air rolls have their uses, learning directional air roll eventually allows for greater control over your car in the air compared to normal air roll, due to the fact that you don't need to consciously move the stick along with holding the air roll button to cause your car to spin where you want. Now, I've heard some creators say that directional air roll is primarily a recovery mechanic, and while that can be true, it's also much more than that. It comes to completely dominate how you think about your car when it's in the air, whether you're making, pinpoint touches on the ball or for catching the proper angle to the ground when landing. This dynamic movement it allows over your car will open up your options and keep your opponents guessing. And it's honestly just a really fun mechanic to learn, and once you get the hang of it, it's just really fun to practice and fly through the air. And while others say learning only one directional air roll is essential, I'd argue that having both mapped to your controller is pretty important. So let's continue from there and talk about controller mapping. As other videos state, you want your directional air roll mapped somewhere convenient and comfortable for you. The old adage of having normal air roll bound to the same binding as power slide remains true, so you want a setup that allows for both options to be bound comfortably. What I found to be the best setup is to have one of either your primary directional air roll or your normal air roll plus power slide bound to the back of your controller like L1. So I have my directional air roll left bound to L1, and then I have my power slide and normal air roll bound to the default mapping of X or square. So you can see, how I have it very convenient to access on the back of my controller, but still have the default bindings for normal air roll. And for other bindings on my controller that you should be aware of, I do have boost set to R1 or RB on my controller, and instead of having boost as B or circle, I have my directional air roll right bound to that. So again, I think it's important to have them both bound, but you want to pick a primary versus a secondary directional air roll. So which one you're going to be using for 90 to 95% of your movement, and then another one which you're going to use just for select situations and power and air roll shots. So continuing on that subject, let's talk a little bit about primary versus secondary directional air roll. So your primary directional air roll, as I stated, will be used for about 90 to 95% of your movement and what you're using in the air and for most of your recovery mechanics when it comes to using air roll. Your secondary air roll, though, is going to be used for situations when you need to use that to quickly air roll the other direction, such as for quick air roll shots. So for instance, I use directional air roll right to shoot when I'm shooting to the left, and then the opposite is true for directional air roll left. But knowing that my primary air roll is directional air roll left, that's the one we're going to be using for most of this training. And you'll see in time that once you get the hang of one direction, your primary directional air roll, then the movements that you'll need for your secondary directional air roll will just come naturally. And you'll be able to kind of understand it once you've got a good grasp of the first direction. So which should you choose as your primary direction? Well, I'll be biased and say that I'll be doing a lot of this tutorial in directional air roll left speaking. So we'll be talking about directions that you'll hit the stick inputs for directional air roll left. But again, it's simple no matter which option you pick. There's really not a big difference between the two other than just how you mirror your moves. So we'll get into that, but I would really just pick whatever feels more natural to you, given your given how comfortable you are navigating around the pitch right now. because it'll affect how you roll off walls. So if I roll off of a right wall, I have to roll a little bit further because I'm rolling to the left. But as opposed to rolling off of a left wall, I only have to rotate a short amount to get my car steadied. So things like that will maybe have minor effects on which one you want to use as your primary air roll, but again, don't overthink this too much and just kind of pick whatever feels natural to you. So one last disclaimer before we get into the tutorial and how to actually train directional air roll, and that's to say that in a goal state, you really should only be using directional air roll to get back to a position that you're comfortable navigating your car in. So you'll see a lot of pros using a lot of directional air roll. You'll see a lot of clip highlights of people kind of just constantly air rolling, especially in rings maps. But that's really not the optimal way to approach this skill. You definitely there are some advantages to always rolling, but for the most part you only want to be rolling enough so that you have control of your car and going from there without rolling the rest of the way. So for instance, if I'm coming off the wall, I generally just want to roll enough so that the hood of my car is facing the camera and my car is upright in the camera angle that I'm facing it. So sometimes you can add a couple more extra rolls in there, but for the most part you want to keep it so that again you're rolling just enough to get comfortable with where your car is facing. But as you see, as we'll get into the training methods, we are going to train this at first with using constant spinning, and that's really to help build the connections in your brain around the different orientations your car's at and the different angles you could then manipulate it using directional air roll. So a healthy understanding of both is kind of required going into this to keep yourself from forming any bad habits along the way. All right, with all that out of the way, let's get into the good stuff. Let's get into the actual training methods for training directional air roll. So if I had to start over and needed to do this what I think is the most optimal way possible, I wouldn't do this using rings maps. I wouldn't do this using standard free play maps. What I would do is I would go into our custom training and find an out of map training pack that works for you. I use this one. This is the out of map training pack for DFH Stadium. You can take this download code and use it. This is a tried and true one for me. But any out of map training pack should work. And when you load into the training pack, your car is immediately going to start falling. And if you don't do anything, it's going to do some wonky stuff. It could fall back into the training area or into the main area of the map. But for the most part, you'll want to just steady your car in a way that you'll be constantly flying. So you'll want to, actually just start off the map with just, moving your car up in the direction so that you can, then hold down boost constantly and get your car, up into the air and taking flight. Now going forward, we're going to be pretty much only holding boost here. So, rather than going straight up like this, we want to maybe angle our car forward a little bit, kind of like we're heading towards a ball. But yeah, now we're kind of in the open out of map area and we have unlimited space to really just experiment and try out air roll tactics. So what I want to do first and what I want you to do is to hold down your primary directional air roll button. So this will be directional air roll left and this will be L1. So holding that down, we're going to be holding down both directional air roll and boost at the same time to constantly be spinning. Now once you're constantly spinning, we're going to take this one direction at a time, and we're only going to learn really one direction to start, and that's the tornado spin direction. And for directional air roll left, doing a tornado spin requires you to move your stick down and to the right. So if I do that, you can see that my car starts to spin around in a tornado-like shape. And when it's doing this, you can notice that your car, the nose of your car, changes angles very, very drastically, and it allows you to basically take your thumb off the stick at any point and be pointing in that direction. So if I want to move over to the left, I just got to wait for the nose of my car to be facing left and let go of the stick. Now similarly, if I want to go right, I just hold down tornado spin until it's moving to the right and I let go on the right side. So again, holding the tornado spin direction, if I want to go right, I can just hold and let go of the stick when it's facing right. If I want to go further right, I can hold it down again and then let go again. As you'll kind of learn with this drill is that, you know, directional air roll is really all about kind of timing and when you're boosting. So, you know, it depends on, you know, when your car is in its rotation, and when you then input something on the stick, it'll change the direction that your car is facing, and the boost will carry you in that direction. The good thing about this exercise is that boosting and air rolling is out of the equation really, and we're just learning what one single stick direction does to your car. And starting off, we want to keep it dead simple with just holding down that direction, watching as your car goes in that kind of wild tornado shape, and experimenting with taking your thumb off the stick at different intervals. Now again, just really experiment with different ways of inputting this direction. You know, you don't even have to do it really sensibly at first. Just get a feel for, you know, just what it feels like to input it and let go. And you'll start to form some of those connections in your brain around, you know, how the car works when you input this direction. One thing you may notice as you do this is that as your car is facing towards you, as the hood of your car is facing towards the camera, and inputting the stick direction, it'll make your car go one direction, and if you do it from the opposite side, from, you know, the bottom of the car facing the camera, it'll go another direction. So to illustrate that, you know, let's start with just, you know, going only when the car hood is facing the camera. So I want to start inputting to the right, and it'll take me to the left, as you can see. So let's try that again. So hood of the car is facing me, and I input the stick direction, and I start moving to the left. Now if I input when my car, when the floor, the bottom of my car is facing the camera, my car is going to go to the right. So let's try that. Let's input the tornado spin direction right when the bottom of the car is facing the camera, and it goes to the right. And it just, you know, just a quick input. You know, you don't have to hold it for very long just to get a sense for that. But, you know, just depending on the orientation of your car, you're going to go in opposite directions. And so holding down this boost and holding down this air roll and just getting a feel for how your car changes directions based on the different orientations it's at, this will really, I think, help accelerate the kind of muscle memory building that you need to utilize and incorporate air roll into your gameplay. Now again, keep experimenting with, you know, holding for different intervals. I like to kind of almost like tap in different beats, like beats of 4 or beats of 8, to show that you can, you know, go in like smaller tornadoes shapes, and allow your car to like accelerate, you know, more forward than the out of control of just holding the tornado spin. So that's kind of how I almost kind of keep track of where I'm at in my spin, by just doing these quick taps. So, you know, quick taps followed by long holds, different intervals based on where I want the car to go. So again, experiment with that and see where you get. Take some time with this, and once you feel like you can at least kind of consciously control where your car is going using this one stick method, we're going to move on to the next drill, which is incorporating stick adjustments. So for incorporating stick adjustments, we want to be in a place where we're still constantly boosting, still constantly air rolling, and definitely constantly tornado spinning as well. But as we tornado spin, we want to again pay attention to where our car nose is pointing, and when we're at an angle that we want to be pointing at, we're going to move our stick up into the right in the circle area, as you see to the left. So I'm going to aim to do this when the car is facing to the right, and then I'm going to move my stick up into the right. So you can watch while both happen here. If you notice, basically what happens is the car... Oh, what the hell? This hasn't happened before. If this happens, just reset and you'll be fine. Okay, let's get back into it. All right, so we were talking about the stick adjustment, the first stick adjustment with moving your stick up into the right. So again, if you're air rolling and tornado spinning, if you move your stick up and to the right at a certain time when your nose is pointing in the direction you want to go, you'll notice that your car kind of stops at that angle and will continue your car moving at that angle if you move your stick back to tornado spin or even just let go of the stick altogether. So let's illustrate that one more time. So again, I'm boosting, I'm constantly air rolling, I am tornado spinning, and I want to move over to the right. I'm going to move my stick as the car is moving over to the right and let go. So now I'm moving strictly to the right. If I do this again, holding tornado spin, but now I want to move to the left, and I move my stick up and to the right, I take that angle on and I let go of the stick. I might be doing a little bit more there. You can kind of watch what I'm doing in the controller overlay. But for the most part, it's just holding tornado spin and then moving up and to the right to get that angle that I want. So definitely take your time with this adjustment. This is going to be a pretty key adjustment for you in using air roll. Again, you aren't going to be tornado spinning all the time, but you are going to be needing to adjust to wherever your nose is pointing at certain intervals. So utilizing this adjustment to quickly make changes to the direction your car is facing and taking on the angle that you want is going to be really key for you going forward. But yeah, practice that first adjustment with just moving your stick up and to the right at angles where you want to be moving forward. So the second adjustment that I'll talk through, and really the only other adjustment that I'm going to talk through in this video, is going down and to the left. So again, we just want to try this out and observe kind of what happens. So while constantly boosting and constantly air rolling, I enter my tornado spin, and if I adjust my stick down and to the left when my car is facing right, you'll see that it's very subtle, but the car spin actually kind of tightens up a little bit and continues to spin on its axis, but spins faster towards the other side. So it tightens up your spin, reduces the width of the tornado spin movement, and sends you towards the direction that you want to be going towards. So again, trying to illustrate this, going into a tornado spin, and maybe this time I want to do it when it's facing to the left. As you can see, my spin kind of flattens out, and I continue along that tornado spin if I hold it down for longer. This is a very subtle adjustment. Both adjustments are really subtle actually, but I feel like even this one is a little bit more subtle than the first one, where you're just kind of getting a feel for how it kind of tightens your spin and affects the direction that your car is going. So again, this is another one that you just want to try out and get a feel for, and just get that sense for how moving your stick slightly down and to the left will just alter your spin and change the angle at which your car is going. Hopefully that makes sense. I feel like the bottom adjustment is a little bit harder to understand than the top adjustment, but either way, we're just getting used to kind of incorporating at least one half of the stick with this air roll movement. And as you experiment with these adjustments, with both these adjustments, you'll really start to get a feel of when you need to return back to tornado spin, or quickly adjust up to get going in the direction that your car is facing, or quickly get around another spin to then make another adjustment. So experiment with these. Again, take some time to practice and learn these, and then we'll see what we have to do next to take this to even the next level. All right, so to this point, I've been talking about everything in directional air roll left terms. For your directional air roll right users, you really just want to reverse everything that you're doing. And I can't really explain this while using directional air roll right. I still am kind of working on mastering using it as a primary direction. But as you can see, holding it down and to the left basically has the same effect of tornado spinning my car. And then the same thing with going up around the stick and down into the right of the stick. Those will have the same adjustments that you'll want to practice and get the hang of. So if you're a directional air roll right user, I'll try and do my best to let you know if there are any significant differences in how you want to approach something. But all right, now that we've got a decent understanding of how tornado spin works, and we're starting to get a feel for how at least one half of the stick affects our spinning, what's really the next step here? Well, I think the next step is actually taking air roll almost completely out of the equation and not incorporating any of these stick movements, and just learning how to fly without air roll, or with as minimal air roll as possible. And the way I like to do that is going into free play again, but we want to pick a special map. We want to pick the Barricade map. And when you go into the Barricade map, you'll see that there are these 4 columns that are separating the pitch from, its traditional shape. But what we want to do is really just go into the air. Now that we're not in an infinite out of map area, we have to kind of control our flying. So the first thing we want to do is learn how to, feather our boost and keep ourselves, up in the air with slight stick adjustments to keep ourselves level. And then once you are comfortable with this, once you have a good sense of your car being, levelly flying in the air, we want to start, using our stick in slight adjustments to move our car around the pitch with as little minimal air roll as possible. So we can start with just going around in circles, and you can see even then I struggle with when the car is facing the wrong way. That's when you actually want to incorporate air roll in your flying. So we want to move around this map with as little air roll as possible, but air rolling will be inevitable because navigating like that is not really how you do it in game, and not really easy to do in practice. So when your car is kind of starting to enter an angle that you aren't comfortable with, that's when you want to incorporate your primary directional air roll. So to demonstrate this, let's go up in the air. And when I want to move to the right side, I can do that without using air roll, but now my car is starting to enter an orientation I'm not familiar with. But so now I want to roll to the left and have my hood facing a direction in which I can kind of make sense of how to continue navigating without air roll. This is going to be a really good drill for you, just to understand that you don't always have to input a stick direction while you're air rolling. A lot of times, air rolling is just really helpful to, again, reorient yourself and reorient your car to a position that you're comfortable using in the air. So you can get creative with this. You don't have to be going around in circles. You can kind of look to do like figure eights, going down the middle, going the opposite direction and rolling appropriately. And then you can, do the same thing on the other side, go through the middle again. But really, the point of this is, again, to first of all understand how to use your car in the air without air roll and how to use it with minimal air roll, just enough to orient yourself in a direction that you can use, that you can go forward without using air roll. And so you're probably asking, like, why would I train this way after learning the other way? I think it's really a balance of the two. So once you learn how to do tornado spinning and start to get a feel for how it feels when you're constantly air rolling, then you'll kind of learn how to tornado spin out of any direction on your car. But in practice, again, you're going to be using air roll as minimal as possible, and only using it when you aren't comfortable with the direction your car is facing. So kind of training both ways is, I think, the best of both worlds in hopefully not setting yourself up with bad habits of constantly air rolling in practice, but also maximizing your ability to build that muscle memory of using air roll and using different inputs at different orientations. All right, so now that we've got this drill out of the way, I think there's only one thing really left to talk through, and that's incorporating the ball. So once you feel comfortable with this, then it's time to go into another training pack and actually practice in-game situations with using air roll. And you can go from the training browser and go to IP Joker's wall to air dribble. That's a good one. But loading this up, it'll give you some easy wall to aerial situations that you can practice your air rolling. And you want to practice, just again with the goal of getting to an orientation of your car where you are comfortable navigating without air roll. So coming off the wall specifically, again with directional air roll left, if I'm coming from the right wall, I need a little bit more roll to get to a neutral spot. Whereas if I switch to the other side and go from the left wall, I only have to roll about like 45 degrees to get back to a spot that I'm comfortable with. But take your time with this one. This one took me a little while to really just kind of understand what the best stick direction is for taking your car off the wall. I would really just experiment with it, and through trial and error, you'll kind of get a feel for exactly the stick movements that are needed to launch your car off and get back to a direction that you're comfortable with. This is probably the least helpful spot of the whole tutorial video, I'll be honest, because I feel like all I'm gonna say here is that you really just need to put the reps in and practice these situations with the ball. That's really how you train a skill, right? You put time and effort into it, and that's gonna be the same for air rolling. It's gonna take time and effort, but my hope is that with the foundation you set in the out of map training pack, and then the additional foundations that you set going through the Barricade map, you'll start to have some muscle memory developed to then incorporate the ball into your training. And when it comes to these in-game situations, you just want to again experiment with how much air roll feels right, what directions affect your trajectory on the ball, and yeah, just getting a feel for when you need to use air roll versus when to not use air roll. And that's really all I've got in terms of the training methods I would go about for training directional air roll. Again, my hope is that even though this skill took me a while to learn, that these training methods will accelerate your understanding and comprehension of what's happening when you're air rolling your car, and the different stick inputs that will affect the way you control it. You'll experience a lot of frustrating moments, of course, I'm sure, but if you stick with it, I promise you'll get there. I did. At least I got to this point, and I still have a lot to learn. So if you have any ideas or thoughts on any of the methods that I'm proposing for you to train on this skill, feel free to leave any comments below. I'm always eager to learn from others and continue expanding the skill base of this great game. So yeah, that's really all I had. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.